Hey everybody, Old Dude here again with the Red Roamer, and we're back for another butt kicking on the Bartram Trail. So we're in Clayton, Georgia right now, being shuttled up to Hickory Knob by Walter. Good morning, Walter.
Good morning.
How
Good
are
morning.
you?
Fantastic. It's a beautiful morning. Sherpa Walter.
Sherpa Walter. So this is Sherpa Al's son, and recall on our first portion of the Bartram Trail, Red Roamer and I made the call at about mile 19, Warwoman Dell in Georgia, and so now we're gonna have Walter take us up to Hickory Knob, south of Franklin, North Carolina, which is about mile 57 if you're going Nobo, and we're gonna go Sobo from there and end up at Warwoman Dell where I left my car. So, like fools, we're starting out on a drizzly, fairly, very overcast, somewhat rainy day, and we got a lot of rain in the forecast, don't we? Yeah. But we're feeling pretty good. We both made some adjustments to be a little better prepared, I think, and so yeah, we're feeling pretty good about this one. We figure we're prepared for miserable, so if it's any better than that, then hey, great. All right, so we'll see you on the trail soon from Hickory Knob, where we start out climbing 255 rock steps. You ready for that?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. Thanks a lot for the ride, Walter.
Oh, my pleasure, guys. Have a great hike.
So the Bartram Trail is about 112 miles, and about a 14-mile portion of it is a road walk. So this is the spot where, if you were going northbound, the trail comes down out of the woods and comes to Hickory Knob Road. And from here, if you were going to continue on the trail, you'd walk down this road, which goes up into Franklin to the north, and then it goes through Franklin, goes west, and then you go back into the woods. That whole portion is about 14 miles, and it's generally considered acceptable, if you're going to through hike the trail, to skip that road walk. So in most people's book, if you do all of the trail minus the road walk, then you're talking about around 98 miles. Most people consider that acceptable as a through hike. So once Red Roamer and I finish this section, we will have done about half of the trail, 57 miles. So we'd like to finish the rest of it at some point, but we may not include the road walk. So we'll be crossing the road and heading up into the woods there, going up into the Fishhawk Mountains. We're starting with 255 rock steps, and to amuse myself, I think I'm actually going to count them as we go up, see if it really is that many. Well, at least it's not raining as we start, so that's good. We will savor every bit of non-rain. Now, do these 3 steps count? I'm not sure. I think I am going to count them. So here's 4, 5, 6. "205, 206, 207, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I count 212 rock steps. What did I say, 255? But I only counted 212. Okay. But that wasn't too bad. Now we have a little switchback action. I did make the mistake of looking at the elevation profile for this section that we're doing. I'm just trying not to think about it. Just keep going, I guess. It'll be fine. Oh, yes, indeed. That mountain laurel is very nice through here. I counted 212 steps.
How many did they say there were?
I thought it was 255, but maybe it was 225. I think I got that from your older guide that you had that was first written in
Yes.
2001 or 2 or something. Right beside this mountain laurel is something with these orange flowers on it. Those are unusual. We have a little phone service here, so John was able to photo search this thing. What do we got?
It's a rhododendron, but it's called the flame azalea.
Flame azalea.
And it's native to the Appalachian Mountains, ranging from southern PA to North Georgia.
Just a little taste of what we're out here for. Beautiful spot here. We've come 2.1 miles so far and ascended about 980 feet. More to go. So far, it's been a beautiful day, though. Better than we were expecting. Huh?
Absolutely.
So there's a system of rain. I don't know if it's a storm system exactly, but rain heading up this way from the Gulf. So it's coming north. And too early to tell from the radar, but there's a chance that it could sort of drift to the east of us and miss us altogether. Or it may hit us dead on. I guess we'll see. We should know by tomorrow. Here's a better sample of these flame azaleas. It looks like the farther along they are in bloom, the lighter this orange color becomes, so it looks sort of like the color of sherbet. It goes from a dark orange to a more yellowy orange. Yeah, bunch of them through here. Alongside the beautiful mountain laurel in various shades of pink and white. Well, we must be at mile 3 point something, because this is where we were supposed to find this spring water coming out of a pipe. And I guess this is the last reliable water source for the next 9.7 miles. So I think we're going to stop here and have a proper lunch and then fill up. We may need to conserve, and we may not come to another water source before we camp tonight. Or if we can go 9.7 miles farther, then we should have a place to camp and water there. So we'll see what we feel like doing. Howdy.
Hey.
Hey, this is kind of cool right up here.
I like that.
Is the shiny stuff in here mica? I wonder. Look at that fuzzy looking branch. Quite a hairstyle. Almost looks braided. And here is, I guess, the famous corkscrew tree. It's about 3.9 miles from the Hickory Knob parking lot going Sobo. And not far down from the corkscrew, just like 0.1, 0.2 miles, we come to, what the heck? What is that doing up here? Wow. North Carolina Public Schools, Macon County. How did it get up here? Broken glass. That is not mica. That is definitely glass right there.
Yeah, no tires, no engine. It's not something you see every day on the trail. Oh, look, the door works, dude.
Oh.
How about that?
Well, that's something.
This man is hard at work. He's had his coffee.
These old mountain roads are pretty rough.
That was cool.
Yeah, I didn't know we were going to have some wild turkey on the trail.
Right?
Because we didn't bring any. Now when you come to this spot where you see this little sign here, it says water, that away, the information that we've seen says that there's a little path that goes down to an intermittent stream, meaning that, you know, this water source is not 100% reliable, but it's not too far down here. Just a few steps, and it's looking pretty good right now. So, yep, definitely looks good today. Well, we've come to White Rock Gap. elevation 4150. There is a water source, Stevens Creek, that looks like it says 800, but our information says 900 feet down that way. Now that's a long way, and it looks like it's downhill and then, of course, uphill on the way back. But we're thinking we probably have enough water that we collected at that last source that we'll be okay. Now there's a camping area right here, a tenting area, and there's a fire ring. But we're not going to take these spots because, as you can see, John is setting up a tarp there, and he's going to have his tent under it. And I'm going to try to do the same. I think I'm going to do it right here, trying to decide whether the head or the foot end of the tent there, kind of have it running this way, and use these two posts, you know, and this and the tree to rig up a tarp, and then, you know, we'll see how that goes. I may need to attach it in a fourth place / way somehow, but yeah, see if I can figure that out. Well, good morning from White Rock Gap, where John and I endured a night of evidently pretty heavy rain. I slept pretty soundly, so I knew it was windy, but I couldn't tell if it was raining much through the night. I'm dry in my tent, but sounds like John had some problems and he's got some standing water. We are talking about maybe hiking to Osage Overlook, about 8 miles, and then having someone pick us up there, because we have phone service here, so we can make arrangements to meet somebody there. But it doesn't sound like John really has the option of hunkering down because he's got too much water to contend with. So we'll see what we end up doing. Next time I talk to you, we may be on the move. It's still sprinkling and it's very windy, so it could be it may not be the most pleasant hiking today. But one way or another, I think after today, we're gonna get out of here. We are trying very hard to embrace the suck, but it's very difficult because it sucks. As we hike along here with a steady rain and me being completely wet, I'm trying to picture myself in a car that someone else is driving, and you know, we're headed to some vacation destination. But on this particular day, as we're driving someplace, it's raining. But there's nothing really to do except drive through the rain and listen to it on the roof. And if you're not driving, maybe try to get a little nap in. So I'm just like picturing that, just to take my mind someplace as we cruise through this rain and mud and whatnot. We don't really feel like stopping because it's no more pleasant to stand still in the rain, and makes you feel a little colder. So we're trying to keep moving, stay warm. Hey everybody, John here. I'm in Oregon on the Oregon Trail. And I don't mean a hiking trail. Well, kind of. Definitely a trail for foot traffic, human feet, and draft animal feet, and wagons who traveled this actual route right here in the 1840s and 1850s as something like 250,000 people set off for a new life in Oregon's Willamette River Valley. It's 90 degrees here today, but it's breezy, as you can see, and I'm actually pretty comfortable. Of course, the sun is not shining on me right at the moment either. I am much more comfortable than I was that last day that you just saw when Red Romer and I were out there in the Fishhawk Mountains of North Carolina. So let me tell you what happened the rest of that day. We got caught in, I guess, what's called an atmospheric river, a thick band of water vapor, very saturated air, and the rain was steady. I wouldn't say it was a constant downpour, but it was steady and unrelenting, and it was miserable. Just miserable. We were cold and wet, and we had to hike 8.5 miles to get out of there. There was a spot about 2.5 miles from White Rock Gap where we could have been picked up. I forget the name of that place, but that was certainly closer, and we could have just stayed put there. But the thing is, we called the Sherpas to come pick us up, and it was going to be 4 to 6 hours before they'd be able to get to us. So that means we would have had to just kind of sit there at that spot for hours underneath a tarp. I don't know that we had dry clothes left, really. It wouldn't have done much good. We'd have just been sitting there wet instead of continuing to move being wet. So we opted for the latter. So we decided to schedule a 4 p.m. pickup at Osage Overlook and have Sherpa Walter come and get us. So the rest of the day was just enduring the rain and the cold. And I mean, it had to be bad for me not to even want, to not be willing to muster the energy to even pull my camera out of my pocket and film any of the rest of the day. In my mind's eye, I have some beauty that I sort of stored that I enjoyed. I didn't feel like I was enjoying it at all, but when we summited Scaly Mountain, for example, at the top there was no view, of course, but the features up there were just very cool, and the rock slabs I liked. There was a part of the trail that was kind of a channel cut in the rock from water runoff, and that channel was full of water that day. So we're basically hiking down a stream for a while, going downhill with vegetation on both sides that wasn't much higher than this sagebrush right here. So there was no place to put blazes, The blazes were probably in the rock under the water, if there were any. That made us a little nervous going down that channel for quite some distance, not sure if we were still on the trail, you know. But turns out we were. We didn't want to have to do any kind of backtracking because we were just conserving every bit of energy just to get ourselves out of there. Now, when we finally made it to the road that we crossed to go over the Osage Overlook parking lot, a vehicle pulled up right then, and it was about 3:15 or 3:20. So we were early for Sherpa Walter. But guess what? That was him pulling in. And oh, that was marvelous. So we got into his car, and he took us back over there to Warwoman Dell. Well, I pretty well crashed in his car, just fell asleep. And then when we got to Warwoman Dell and I got out of his car, I immediately threw up. And so then on the way back to John's house, I made it about a half-hour driving, and then I asked him to take over. And so he got the honor of driving the Silver Streak. Good thing he knows how to drive a straight shift, you know. He drove the rest of the way back, and man, I just felt so terrible. I threw up again along the way. We got back to his house. I immediately changed clothes and then went to sleep. And for the next 18 hours, I just alternated between sleeping and throwing up. I was in rough shape. And then finally, at some point, I was able to keep some ginger ale down, go back to sleep a little more, you know, and then John made some chicken soup and had some saltines and ginger ale, and I was starting to feel a little better. At least I could keep that down. And then a little while later, John's daughter made a special food run for me. I very much appreciate it. It takes like an hour round trip to get anything where they live, and so she went and got me what I was craving and what I thought I could eat, and pick up some more ginger ale and orange Gatorade, and so they nursed me back to where, you know, I could. It still took several days for my appetite to really come back to normal, but yeah, that day did a number on me. I mean, it was semi-traumatic, I have to say. It's 2 months later now, and I haven't really. I attempted one hike, and that got cut short for unrelated reasons. But I just feel like, you know, I feel like right now I only want fair weather, smooth hikes. I'm looking for activities where I know I'm not going to overexert myself, because basically I was suffering from exhaustion. You know, there wasn't any other health issue that caused that, because, you know, once I you know, got my appetite back and got back to normal, I didn't have any issues that might have been related to something else. So that was definitely exhaustion. I experienced some of that on the Bucktail Path too with Jeremy, and maybe a touch of it when I did the Girard Trail the last time. So that's got me a little concerned, you know. And I think as long as I keep my activities at a scale where you know, I'm not at risk of exhausting myself, I think I'll be okay. But yeah, that's where we stand, and I'm sorry I didn't have any more video for you for the rest of that day, but that tells you how bad it was. I mean, Red Romer and I both agreed that neither one of us had ever had a rougher day on the trail. So will we get back to the Bartram Trail? I don't know. I'd like to. We have a portion between Osage Overlook and Warwoman Dell that I think that's about 15 miles to fill in. We could certainly do that as just a 2-day mission sometime. But heat is another thing, you know, that I'm looking out for. Heat and heavy rain. Now, we knew that a significant amount of rain was in the forecast, and we went out there anyway but we weren't quite prepared for what we got. It was a little more um, intense than we were bargaining for. So that's twice that rain and cold has knocked us off that trail. But I feel like now I'm inclined to only go out when the forecast is not calling for any significant amount of rain or heat, you know. So, and that gets very, very tricky with multi-day hikes. You know, if you plan to be out there, let's say for 5 days, and you're planning it with another person, you know, you have to coordinate your schedules. You have a certain time window. So it's not like you can just, you know, in my case, if I'm going all the way down there to you know, to the Carolinas from Pennsylvania, then, you know, we plan to start on a certain day and we say, let's delay it a day. Well, let's delay it another day and another day. You know, you can't necessarily afford to do that kind of thing. So yeah, it gets tricky. But anyway, I guess I don't have any conclusion here except to say that just wanted to explain to you what happened, and I guess the next time you see me out on the trail, it's likely to be something a lot more low impact. So we'll see you for the next adventure. Thank you for watching.